So Brendan Sullivan has committed to Iowa. This happened Wednesday afternoon. Brendan Sullivan, obviously coming from Northwestern, played a little bit in the last 2 years there. And I got to say, this is an interesting development for this Iowa team. Now, people make the jokes, Iowa doesn't have an offense. Why are you talking about Iowa's quarterback? But Iowa does have Tim Lester this season, and I think that there is more behind the curtain than maybe some people are seeing, and so I do want to reference that in today's video. Brendan Sullivan does come in with 2 years of eligibility remaining in his college career. So he has played 2 years at Northwestern. He will have 2 years remaining. Of course, Cade McNamara is also at Northwestern. I apologize, is also still at Iowa. He has not practiced this spring because of his injuries. However, it is an interesting development to think about the quarterback room that is there. Deacon Hill, he transferred out early into, well, maybe not early, but a little while ago. He transferred out during spring practice. I think from what I could tell, it just seemed like he recognized that he was not going to be someone that would start or do well in this offense. If you've watched Tim Lester at all and kind of the offenses he runs, he's not running, like the most mobile quarterback in the world, but he does want his quarterback to have some feet and to be able to move and to utilize that some. That's just not Deacon Hill. Deacon Hill is some things, but one thing he is definitely not is a mobile running quarterback. And so Brendan Sullivan comes in. He started, I think, 8 games in his career, some as a freshman, some last year as a sophomore. As we know, even though Northwestern was able to have that magical season, people thought they were going to win 1 or 2 games. They ended up winning 8, including a bowl win, which is fantastic for them, what David Braun was able to do in the year. And they had different starting quarterbacks, and they had different quarterbacks play throughout the year as well. So even more credit to David Braun. But at the end of the day, Brendan Sullivan did get some time. His best games were not against the best teams. He struggled against Iowa, struggled against Nebraska as well. He got in for a little bit of that Penn State game there kind of at the end, and he struggled, but everybody struggled on offense in that game. So I don't really put that much on him. But kind of when he came in a little bit in backup duty, it was okay. It wasn't bad. But yeah, I think that Brendan Sullivan is somebody that Iowa fans should be excited about, because this is a difference than what was kind of there before, which was just kind of a statue quarterback who's back there. I would have loved to see what Brian Ferentz could do if he just had a mobile quarterback and just kind of let him run and go rampant. Obviously, he wasn't going to do that. They were too conservative for that. But my point is that both Cade McNamara and Brendan Sullivan have a good amount of experience coming in to this season. Obviously, Cade McNamara with more won a Big Ten championship in 2021 when he was at Michigan. Started a game in 2022 with Michigan before transferring out. Started 4 or 5 games, I think, for Iowa last year. So he started some games there as well. And going into this season, he is, again, not in spring practice, like I mentioned, but he is somebody that's going to be viewed as a veteran, somebody who is mature and is going to be able to lead this team. Brendan Sullivan, while he doesn't necessarily have the maturity, well, I don't want to say he doesn't have the maturity. Well, he doesn't have the longevity that Cade McNamara has had in college football. He has had some time starting and being in games as well. Like I said, started 8 times in 2 years at Northwestern. And so the question is can Sullivan start over Cade McNamara, right? I mean, this is a situation where you're bringing in Sullivan, and Tim Lester recruited Brendan Sullivan. He saw him back when he was at Western Michigan and said, this guy fits my offense. This guy can do a lot of things. And so is he going to bring Brendan Sullivan in to be the starter over Cade McNamara? Sullivan's mobility is something that Lester wants to see more of in his offense that just, quite frankly, Cade can't bring. Cade is not as mobile of a quarterback as Brendan Sullivan, and quite frankly, you don't want to see Cade get hurt. And so you don't want him to be back there moving around too much, because if he gets hit the right way, he might get hurt. I don't like to call guys injury prone, but I think with Cade McNamara, you almost have to call him that, because the past 2 seasons have been cut short due to injury. We could argue about 2022 and what that looked like at Michigan, because J.J. McCarthy was going to take over anyway, and Cade McNamara chose to have the surgery, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, Cade has been hurt all spring and hasn't had the time to display his talents to Tim Lester yet. And so if that is what Tim Lester wants to see. He wants to see Cade McNamara's talents. He just hasn't seen them yet. And he has seen Brendan Sullivan play. He can watch film on Cade McNamara, but he's seen Brendan Sullivan play. He recruited Brendan Sullivan. He wants him. And so the question is Cade's experience? Can Cade's experience win him the job? Although I do think Brendan Sullivan could be lightning in a bottle for Iowa compared to what Iowa has had in the past with some of their QBs here recently. Cade is still the safer and more reliable choice. Cade is who you go with if you don't want to lose yardage on sacks. Cade is who you go with if you don't want the ball turned over as much. In Cade's 4 seasons, he has dropped back over 500 times. He has had over 500 dropbacks in 4 seasons in college football. He's only been sacked 18 times. Now, you might be saying, wow, 18 sacks, that's not very good. It is in 4 seasons, and like I said, 500 plus dropbacks. And in comparison to Sullivan, it's much, much better. In Sullivan's career, he has about half as many dropbacks. I think about 280 was what I saw, about 280 dropbacks, and he's been sacked twice as much, 37 times. And so you can tell Brendan Sullivan, he just has not had the pocket awareness that maybe some others have had. Now, you could say Cade McNamara that season at Michigan had a much better offensive line. I could definitely give you that. But at least last year as well, Cade McNamara was not struggling in the pocket as much as Brendan Sullivan was at times. And that just comes with age. That comes with experience. That comes with getting your pocket presence and being ready and working with an offensive line. You come in and work with a new offensive line, even though it should be pretty straightforward, you still have to learn each other. You still have to get used to things. And then, of course, Cade has thrown 7 interceptions in his 4 seasons, 500 plus dropbacks. In Brendan Sullivan's 2 seasons, about 280 dropbacks, he has thrown 5 interceptions. So almost just as many as Cade McNamara. I think it's clear that Cade McNamara is the one who's going to take care of the ball and offer you a bit more reliability. Will he move the ball as well as Brendan Sullivan? Probably not. He's just not as electric as of a player to make that happen. However, at the end of the day, it does come down to Kirk Ferentz. What does Kirk Ferentz want to do? Is Kirk Ferentz going to stick with being a reliable team, having a reliable offense that's not going to turn the ball over? Or is he willing to risk it a little bit? Is Kirk going to be willing to get a little aggressive? Based on what I've seen from Tim Lester, I think Tim Lester's going to want to be a little aggressive. I think he's going to want to see Brendan Sullivan out there. I think he knows about Cade McNamara's injury issues, and a large part of this is just insurance in case Cade McNamara gets hurt. But I think a large part of this as well is also that Tim Lester would not be upset if he saw Brendan Sullivan be his starter this year. So we'll see. I don't think Kirk is going to change, especially in his first year with this new offensive coordinator. If we're talking about year 3 or year 4, maybe with Tim Lester, I would think maybe he would do that. But at the end of the day, this is still Tim Lester's first year as the offensive coordinator. Kirk Ferentz seems like somebody who is going to want to kind of stick with, let's go with Phil Parker, get the solid defense, have an offense that's reliable, and have it work that way. But who knows? If end of the year the defense isn't as good as they were hoping, or maybe they're struggling a little bit, we'll see. If I have to give a prediction, I'm going to say Cade McNamara is the starter at the beginning of the year. But if you ask me, is Cade McNamara going to be the starter at the end of the year? I can't say that's going to be super likely. Number one, because of injury concerns. And number two, if Cade McNamara struggles, I think it's going to be a short leash for Tim Lester to say, let's put in the young guy. Let's put in Brendan Sullivan. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear your thoughts on all of this. Do you think that Kirk Ferentz is going to be more conservative? Do you think that he's going to allow Tim Lester to be more aggressive? Is Cade McNamara going to be the starter? Is Brendan Sullivan going to be the starter? Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your comments and your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Please do like and subscribe. We appreciate it. Have a good one.